What is going on, agency owners? This is Jordan Ross, founder of Eight Figure Agency, where we make it possible for you to grow a thriving eight-figure agency or multi-seven-figure agency without having to work. And today we have an old client of mine, and more importantly, a really good friend of mine, Nate Ruben. He is and was the founder of Ruben Digital. He's had a successful exit. He's gone on to his second businesses on the financial services sector. And he's done something that few people can say they have done. He's gone on and sold his business and exited. A hard thing to do that this beautiful man has done. And Nate, for everyone that doesn't know you, what do they got to know about Nate Ruben? Like, what's up with this feng shui that you got? Because it's on fire every time I see you. And what's the high level of Nate before we get
First of all,
into this?
thank you, brother. Thank you for having me on. I don't know if there's anything you have to know about me, but if there's things that you're interested in, I'd say there's like the what, and then there's the why. You know, the what I've done, I built a digital marketing company. I worked with Jordan to add in process and scale, and I got clear that it wasn't my long-term passion. So I got out and I sold the business. So there's another what, like, you know, we could talk about what that process was like. But really, the why you might want to know things about me is that, very similar to Jordan, I believe that we're here on earth for like a much bigger purpose. And business is typically the vehicle for all the other things we're going to do in life. And a lot of what I talk about with people today are what are those things and how do we get there and make those things happen.
Guys, I fucking love this, man. Like, I will sing that from the rooftops when I introduce people to Nate, who, by the way, is like one of the most well-connected people I know. Like, that he is someone you want to know and be in relationship with. Your energy's fucking awesome. Like, I had a stressful day yesterday, just some interpersonal conflict with someone in my network, and just kind of being recentered, like the what, and more importantly, the why. And you know, that's not coming into this conversation. I'm like, you sold your business. Let's talk about how that happened and all that fun stuff. But you're really bringing it back to center. It's fucking gorgeous, man. It's fucking beautiful.
Thank you, brother.
I appreciate that energy.
Absolutely. You know, I think that a lot of times, especially on business podcasts or around people who are constantly in the like, how do we bring value to each other? There's this mindset of this is what I do. This is how you can engage with me. And if you want more value, let's chat, which there's a time and place for and is awesome. But one of the things I love about you and the network you've cultivated, it's like everybody can bring value. But now let's get to know who are you? What makes you tick? What are the things that drive you? And, you know, how did I even vet you? I found out you were connected to my bro from summer camp.
Joe Hendlin, baby.
Yeah.
Shout out.
I gave him a shout and he's like, Jordan is this guy. And for anybody who's like unsure about Jordan, like I'm going to give you my testimonial because his language patterns, everything he said, every way he approached me, and this guy's too fucking good to be true. Like he's full of shit. I don't trust him.
I remember you said that.
Because it's too perfect. And so I called Joe and Joe's like, no, Jordan's like, he's into like this personal development stuff. He's very spiritually oriented. He's just a good dude. And when I opened up to like, no, just let the experience happen, it's been perfect. And we vibed on so many levels. So that's kind of why I try to bring this to today, because that's what the relationship is.
Holy fuck. So first off, that moved me. That was beautiful. Thank you so much for that. Yeah. Guys, so obviously everyone listening, probably no one knows Joe Hendlin unless you're a friend of Nate's or a college friend of mine. I went to college with Joe. I was in a fraternity in college, and Joe and I were in the same, what's called the pledge class, if you're not from Greek life. And I want you to consider, right? I haven't spoken to Joe. I saw Joe randomly in Israel, like in 26. I graduated in 2016, so I saw him randomly in Israel with his troop. That was awesome. But Nate called up on someone from my past who I hadn't spoken to in literally years, whose impression of me was from my young 20s. Like I met not even young 20s. I met Joe when I was 18, right? So I think it's so important to really understand that your reputation really does precede you. Mm-hmm. And whoever you are now or who you have been, if you don't go for years talking to someone and then someone asks about you, that's how you remember, that's how you're remembered in their mind space. So I just, my dad raised me to be a mensch. Like that was like, I got lectured on that shit. Just treat people nice, be a kind human. Obviously, when you were in a moment of skepticism coming into our friendship, our professional partnership, obviously that shined through. So that's something I totally forgot about, but I think that's a great point to share. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah. Well, your reputation is everything. I mean, a lot of times we get caught up in this role of like, I'm Jordan Ross and I help agency owners scale and sell their business, which is, it's a hat you wear, it's a role you play, but you're so much more than that. There are few people who could do what you do, but you've got to have that deeper level to why does the partnership exist?
Yeah. The what and the why, baby. So speaking of the what, when we met, you were in a space where you were looking to remove yourself from the data, and you ultimately ended up selling. So let's talk about a few what's there. When we collaborated, and then after our collaboration, you were able to ultimately step away. What were the 3, 4, 5 critical things that you ended up doing that enabled that sale that allowed you to step away? But when you look back on over the last 12,
first thing, months. Absolute most important thing. If you're a business owner, you need to know your numbers inside and out. You need to eat, breathe, sleep those numbers. And I knew that before I worked with you. I went through the Goldman Sachs 10,000 small business program. I'm also a big fan of like QuickBooks. I lived in that thing like 3 days a week. I think if you don't know your numbers well, you're not going to be prepared for the exit properly, because you're not going to know how to speak to your company very well. And you don't get the high level. So like that's first and foremost. You have that in place. Number 2 is going to be SOPs, this idea of like procedures and operations, which was admittedly my weak point. Jordan came in and that was what I needed. He's an operations guru. I mean, he spent a lot of time with Amazon, crushed it. That's really why he's doing what he's doing today. So I'm sure you can expound on those points. And then really the third one was transparency with my team about what's the goal, and keeping the sale very, very focused on, is this going to be what's best for my team? Is this what's going to be best for my clients? And then will it be good enough for me? And I took less money than I could have to make it all about me. But I said, is this buyer going to keep my employees? And is this buyer going to implement systems that are going to improve the relationships with my clients? And then am I going to get enough to be happy? And I kind of hit all 3 of those.
Yeah, really well said. So let's just do a quick recap. First is know your numbers, which, guys, when you go into due diligence, you really get grilled, right? So they're going to look through your books. They're going to look through your past 2 years. They're going to ask you about your lifetime value, your pipeline, how many appointments, your closing rate, what happened. And they're going to be making a lot of assumptions and being able to extrapolate, when we acquire this business for this lump sum or this sum of money, can we put our funnel on top of it and make a return and some, and a lot more than some, right? So you have to know your numbers. The SOPs, yeah, as you're saying, I was having flashbacks. The SOPs, I actually dropped a thread on that this morning, but I call it the OS, your operating system. Like, what is our approach for building websites? What's our approach for branding? What's our approach for creative services, right? What is our methodology, step 1, all the way to the last step? And then how do we define each step through an SOP? And then on the components where, we need to train someone to think on their own, how do we do that, right? And if you could boil that all into the OS, that's part of your sale, right? You're giving away that's intellectual property. You're not only selling your company, your team members, your revenue streams, but you're also selling the how you do the thing. And then the final thing was, let me ask you this, Nate. So for the final component for you, right? When you were selling, you put your people first, which I love. And I think that a lot of people are really scared of selling. I know I've been burned by a few people in the marketplace. I've been burned by an accountant recently, the last 12 months, been burned by someone I was in business with. Some people are just shady characters, and you really don't know some of those things don't come out. And like you and I live with our heart on our sleeve, and we want to engage with good people. How did you kind of sniff out that this person you were selling to really is going to be a fiduciary? They're going to not only take care of your people, but your business, and do right by everyone. Like, how'd you go through that process?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, we had this back and forth. Just for context. I went through a process of trying to shop the business on my own in the very beginning of 2020, and then in the beginning of 2021. It wasn't until I worked with a broker in 2022 that I got the right kind of traction. I spent a lot of time wasted talking to people who were very interested in the idea of a deal, but just didn't have it in them to commit. So I think first working with a broker kind of helped sniff out all the BS. I had an offer one time that wasn't even really an offer to buy my business. It was like, hey, if you come over to my company, I'll give you a great salary and a bonus structure based on how many of your clients we can convert to our model, which was bullshit. It wasn't what I was looking for. So where I finally got to in this deal, I had a situation where they asked a lot of the right questions up front. We covered a lot of ground in due diligence within like a week. We had an offer within 2, and we had an LOI and a signed initial agreement in less than a month. So I could tell that they were passionate about actually making it happen. And then where we would get hung up on was my numbers based on a contract only model versus on an employee based model. And he was willing to commit to the employees, but just had to reevaluate the numbers. So when I saw the commitment there was definitely a leap of faith. But at the same time, we structured the deal where it was 35% upfront, 65% over the next 3 years. So there was going to be this like, hey, if he doesn't keep his word, there's a potential that things aren't going to go well for him. So we have this mutually aligned interest.
Beautiful. I want to go back to the sale in a second.
Yeah.
Because I have recently spoken to a founder in my network who sold his company last year, over a year ago now. And he had a deal similar to yours, upfront payment and then a payout over like a certain amount of years. And he has not received his payment yet for 20. He's supposed to get 4 payments every year. He's gotten 1 of 3. So there's been 3 quarters down. He's only gotten 1. So like things like that. What did you structure anything? So I want to go back to that. So you mentioned the 3 things, financials, SOPs.
Sorry, my mind is just kind of blown because I'm like, he hasn't gotten his payment. Has he gotten his business back?
we're gonna talk about it. We're gonna get into it. Anything else? Is there anything else that allowed you to make this sale? Like when they were going through your business, is like, okay, I built this thing that's actually allowing this to happen.
Yeah,
or were those the 3?
I would say those were the things, the big things. But one thing is like kind of an esoteric concept, but you have to be willing to sell your business. There's a lot of people who want their cake and they want to eat it too, which I didn't even really get. I thought that was a stupid phrase until like 5 years ago when I'm like, you literally can't have the cake once you've eaten it. But I digress. So I was mentally able to get over the self-identification of Nate Ruben, owner of Ruben Digital, Nate Ruben, business owner. That part of my ego left me in April 2019. I was going through a lot of personal experience where I said, hey, this business I've built is never going to love me back. I need to be willing to separate myself from what I've been doing in order to move forward into whatever God has in store for me. So like that was a really critical piece because I was willing to let go when the time came. The other thing of what prepared me, and I think would prepare other agency owners, is to build in recurring revenue models that will enhance the value of your one-off services. So I talked to a lot of people who've done much more impressive numbers than I have in project work, but they don't do any web hosting. And I go, why not? Like some people approach web hosting as it's a pain in the ass. I want nothing to do with it. Other people go the reseller model of like, I'm going to be a real estate agent. I'm going to connect you with your host and I'm going to get a one-time fee. I said, I want to be a real estate developer. I'm going to buy and build the nicest plot of land and the nicest building. And I'm going to invite people to come into my building for a premium and I'm going to charge them rent every year. And so when I went to sell my business, you could say, hey, you've got X in projects. I don't know if I value it because it's one-off work. Well, I go, now I have this whole other section of my business that's recurring revenue that also keeps the client sticky to go do more development work and project work in the future. So that enhanced the value of the business and probably got me more value than I would have gotten without it.
I love that point. One of the things that we do, especially with our web dev companies, when the founder is no longer needed in the operation, the day-to-day operation, that's when I think it's time to go consider, should we go do web hosting? Should we have a maintenance program? Should we offer SEO, right? What are the other complementary services or ancillary services that allow that? So that's a great point. I really love that. So now transitioning to the sale part, because I said some shit that you're like, yo, what? So I had a friend who sold his business, and there's a point in the contract where the acquirer needs to pay this person a specific percentage of profits every quarter. So like if the quarter ends, I think it's like 30 days after quarter ends, you need to pay me. And if that payment's 1 day late, it doubles. So that technically goes from 25 to 50. That person hadn't gotten paid twice. So now it's like they could go to court for it. Was there anything that you did or had any legal like guidance on how to structure your like sale component of the financial part, so you have like assurances that you're good to go?
Yeah. So take this with a grain of salt. A contract is only as good as your ability to enforce it. And the reason I bring that up is because I have this mentality of, which is actually comes from a line in a Jay-Z song where it's like, if you fuck up my night, I'll fuck up your life. Where I can way overreact and I can go off the deep end for something that really can just have a minor reconciliation. So I made sure that the contract would take care of me, but also put me in a position where if they didn't honor their word in the contract, it wasn't going to leave me without recourse or have me just go off on like some street justice mentality. So the way the contract is set up, if this person doesn't pay their payments on time, I get my business back. And it's very clear. If somebody is not keeping their word, like, yes, I can go to a judge, we can get injunctive relief, I can contact my attorney, we can make it very complicated. But very simply, if you're not paying your bills, the business comes back to me. And I don't have to, like, it would be a pain, but I can make that happen. Like, it's within my power. These are all clients I've built. These are employees who've worked for me. I can contact people and say, look, the new general manager, it's not working out. We're reverting to our old management structure. There's going to be some changes in the coming weeks or months. And I wouldn't enjoy that process, but it can happen. And so far I've been paid on time. So I haven't even thought about it.
Gives you beautiful. I think that's great. So you built the agency, sold the agency, you're getting paid on time. Just for everyone, I want people to have that visual or that sensation for the manifestation point. What did that feel like selling? Like, what was that like when you got your lump sum in the bank account, when you saw that, like, and you knew it was there? Like, what did that feel like for everyone?
Dude, it was incredible. It was absolutely incredible. And I'll tell you a little story. So who Jordan and I know each other through our buddy Joe Henlon. We met through summer camp, and I had cultivated great relationships. One of my buddies from summer camp, who's friends with Joe, was producing a movie, and he invited my wife and I to go to Detroit and be extras in this film. And so I have this going on while I'm in the process of negotiating to sell my business. I'm also full speed ahead in my new business. But I was just like, yeah, why not? This would be really fun. And so I signed the deal and had everything done while I was on set as an extra in a movie, playing an Orthodox Jew with my hat and my suit and my, hair and my beard. And it felt incredible to be like, I'm literally celebrating the sale of my business by being with some of my best friends that I haven't seen in a long time, doing like a once in a lifetime thing. I'm in a movie. And then the next day when it hit my bank account, bro, it was sick. It just felt like all the hard work of the trust and the faith. Is this deal going to work out? There's things in my life that the timing and cash flow and alignment, it just all happened at the right time. And then I just got to have fun and be with my boys.
Beautiful. And that picture that you sent, because I was in New York at the time, so I was traveling too. That you looked great.
Thank you.
So let's talk about post-exit. You have sold, you have a lump sum. You moved into a financial services business. So for everyone listening, Nate is my guy. When I have a client that will reach out to us and be like, yo, I have a lot of money, what do I do with it? which doesn't happen often, right? Like, because people want to put a lot of it back in the business, but over the long term, it does. I send them to Nate. When someone is about to have a sale or someone hits me up, like we had a referral recently where someone's like, I need a tax strategy. I send them to Nate. So what is your current business venture and how is it applicable for the people that have recently come into wealth or or are running an agency that have, a couple 100,000, $1 million or more on the P&L? And how do you help? Like, why does Jordan Ross send you so many referrals? And guys, there's over 4,000 of you listening every month as of this recording in November 2022. I only send people to Nate, and I only send people the best. This guy's fucking legit. If you are hearing this and considering this, he will give you his information. Stick around because you should be talking to this guy. He's a beast. But yeah, Nate.
Thank you, Jordan. Bro. So yeah, here's in a nutshell what I'm doing and why I think it's useful. When I was running my business, I come from a family of entrepreneurs. They knew how to grow and build a business. They knew how to make money, but they didn't know a lot of the things they needed along the way for protection. What I mean by that, my grandpa ran a family business. He had his son as his succession plan. Well, his son, my uncle, had a long-term disability happen to him, and they had no long-term disability insurance. My grandpa, as the operator, had no key person insurance. My grandpa also had no long-term care for himself. So long story short, my grandpa was spending 20 years taking money from the business and sending it out to a non-productive employee. And he didn't have the money to hire and replace who should have been next in line. So what that does is it slowly bleeds the business dry. And instead of my grandpa having an incredible exit, he limped away from his business. He also in old age had 2 strokes, didn't have some of the resources to really live the quality of life he should have in his later years. Me being in my early 20s, seeing that, then connecting with the right financial planner, I learned my grandpa and my entire family's life trajectory could have been so much different if they had somebody like me in their corner. And then post-exit, what I've learned that's just interesting is if I were talking to you, just a regular person, didn't own a business, you had $10 million and you told me you had $10 million of Apple stock, I'd look at you like you're fucking nuts. I'd be like, you need to diversify. Why is all your money in one company? Yet we look at business owners often as hey, this person is worth $15 million and 14.5 is all in his business. We're like, oh, wow, you've built this great business. So a lot of times business owners default to, I'm just putting my money right back into the business. They don't diversify along the way. So where I come in is I help business owners think about how do you continue to run your business in a profitable way where you're growing and reinvesting, but also diversifying and de-risking along the way. So all of your worth isn't just tied up into one place. And then what are the strategies based on where you're at in life to achieve what you want?
Beautiful. And if someone gets a fuck ton of money through a sale, what do you do?
If you get a fuck ton of money through a sale, give me a call, not because I have something I want to sell you, but because I have estate attorneys, lawyers, accountants, people I'll connect you with to understand the ramifications of that sale. Hopefully we talk before the sale so we could game plan very strategically. Somebody you recently introduced me to who's been a wonderful person to get to know. He could have done things a little different if we had met him a year ago. But we've still met him before he's got the money. So he's going to be able to do things with us that are going to be really impactful the next 3, 6, 9 months. But depending on what state you live in, depending on what your family looks like, depending on your long-term vision, there are things we can do today that are going to save you between 40 to 80% of your money because of how tax codes work in different states. So the game plan and the strategy is really crucial. From there, there's a lot of people who can help you implement.
And for the context of you guys listening, I don't know what Nate's referring to. ADEF, we have over 51 active clients right now. We have 51 active clients right now. One of our clients is in the midst of a sale and he has not sold yet. So he's like, yo, I'm about to get a fuck ton of money. Who do I talk to? What do I do to make sure my taxes are good? And I was like, yo, you got to talk to Nate. So guys, that is Nate Ruben. And Nate, you sold, you de-risked on the sale, you built the processes to sell, got the lump sum, partied, started your second business in financial services. For everyone that now is yo, this guy Nate seems really cool. I'm a business owner. I want to de-risk along the way, or I have a lot of cash that I want to do stuff with. where can they find you? How can they get in touch with you? And yeah, how could they reach out?
No, that's awesome. I'm sure we'll put in the comments or in the description somewhere my links. I'm going to actually include my personal email address and then the social media platforms I'm on most frequently. I'm actually transitioning right now how I'm interfacing in my current role. So what I might tell you today could look totally different in 3 months. So just hit me up on social or hit me up on my personal email and we'll go from there.
What are those links, just in case they want to hear it and it takes some
Sure.
action?
Oh, yeah, if you're listening. So I'm very active on LinkedIn and Twitter. I have other accounts, but not super active. And then my personal email is shalom, SHALOM, at nateruben.com, NATERUBEN.
Guys, that is shalom at nateruben.com. Guys, there's a few people in my corner. I have less than 5 people that I full-heartedly trust with like everything, and Nate's one of those guys. Like, Nate, you really are. Like, there's less than, I could think of 3. It's few and far between. Like, I know a lot of people, but there's few people I would fully trust with like every component of my life and business, and you're one of them. So if you're hearing this and like you are aware of my brand, you know who I am, like that is really high praise, because I looked at my CRM in the last 2 years, I've connected with over like 2,500 people. Like, I couldn't believe that. But like, if I'm telling you there's less than 5 people that I fully trust, and Nate's one of them, like, this guy's legit. Go talk to him, hit him up. Nate, fucking love you, bro. Thank you so much for coming on. Have a great afternoon,
Love you too, brother. Thank you for having me.
Peace out.